Welcome to Dream Ignite Build, the podcast where passion meets purpose and ideas turn into action. Today, we're joined by Autumn Kerr, mom of one, the creative powerhouse behind Cultivate Place Creative. With over a decade of experience in both agency design and nonprofit leadership, Autumn brings a heart for service and a sharp eye for strategy. From founding Restoration Nation Retreat to launching Go Belove Consulting, she's on a mission to amplify the voices of small businesses and nonprofits through impactful design and storytelling. Let's dive in, Autumn. I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, first of all, you are a mom of one and you are doing all the things. So, how do you make it possible with all of the day to day things, caring for your sweet 16-year-old boy and running these amazing businesses and organizations? How does all of that come together for you?
One day at a time. I think my first priority is my son, so I'm kind of working everything else around my schedule with him. He's involved in a lot of things, so having the flexibility to pick him up and let him do band and clubs and all the things, that's my first priority. So having my own business allows me that freedom. So that's kind of my why for
Yes.
why I do it. And so I just make it work around that. And some days are smoother
Yeah.
than others, but yeah, just having a schedule and I live by my calendar on my phone. And that's kind of how I keep track of it all.
I'm so glad that you shared that because I think for a lot of people listening in today, they're parents. They've got kids, one or more, we're doing all of the things. And I think it's important to recognize that it can be done and that we can pay attention to the small things and we can bring it all together. We can make it work. And for the parents listening in, it's important for, I think, all of us to recognize that that can be the priority, that family, that our kids, that can be the number one focal point. And when we build everything out around them, that's when we can make better decisions. Because if we're always focusing on just the business aspect of things and then we're trying to bring in quality time, I think that makes it so much harder. So I love that you talk about that being your why and that really being at the pinnacle of everything else that you do. And then you can join in all the extracurricular activities.
Right. And I get to volunteer at all the band related things. He
Yeah.
plays saxophone and he's in the band at school and there's always something. So I volunteer a lot and I have that freedom to do that. So I'm grateful.
Sure. For sure. I love it. I also want to talk on Restoration Retreat. I absolutely love what you're doing there. Can you talk about the mission of Restoration Retreat and share with the audience what kind of impact you're making?
Absolutely. So Restoration Nation Retreat was founded in 2020 and we do right now just like one or two retreats a year.
Mhm.
But really it's just meant for people to take the time to get away and just they're Christian retreats, so it's faith-based and it's just that time away for believers to go away and kind of reconnect with God, journal, pray. There's usually a worship leader, there's sometimes counselors there. And it's just been a really amazing couple of retreats that we've been able to do so far. And then recently we did a one-day retreat where it wasn't an overnight. We just did it locally and that was really awesome too and gave more people the ability to come. Because not everybody, myself being a single mom, it's hard to get away for the whole weekend sometimes. So
Yes.
we'll probably do more of those day retreats, but then also still continue to do some of the weekends away where we can just kind of recharge. I mean, whether it's a business retreat or a faith-based retreat or a yoga retreat or whatever it is, there's so many different things like this out there. I think it's just really important that really any of us are taking that time for self-care and to kind of refresh and rejuvenate and kind of, come back renewed and able to be the mom that you need to be, the business owner you need to be because you've had that time away. So,
And I feel like you're providing something that's really lacking, which is the spiritual component. There are a lot of retreats out there, but a lot of them aren't really focusing on how God can truly influence us and impact us. And I love the fact that you're tying in so much of that, whether it's the day or the entire weekend, weaving that into all of the things, through the business, through basic self-care. We are learning so much about ourselves, but we're also gleaning from what God has for us. And I love that so much that you can dig in, you can help us bring the best versions of ourselves out and just through some of the process I'm sure that you go through. And I know you have some amazing guests and speakers that help to facilitate those with you.
Absolutely. We always have either one or more speaker. Like I said, sometimes there's a counselor there. We've even done like pampering where there's been a massage therapist there and that's all included and we try to keep the cost low. It's a nonprofit, so when people donate it helps keep the cost low for the people coming cuz a lot of the people can't afford like this very expensive retreat and you still want them to be able to go away and refresh. So it's been really refreshing to me even though I'm doing a lot of the work planning it and getting ready, once I'm there, it's just nice to have that time carved away from all your responsibilities back home
Yes.
to just go to a really peaceful place and just really sometimes there's, like, an hour where you're like, "Okay, go away by yourself, find a place on the property, and just journal and pray and, like, hear from God." And how often do we slow down in our day-to-day lives, especially as business owners and parents? We don't often slow down enough to hear from God. What is he actually saying to us? So and then there's the fellowship time. There's often a lot of people there that don't know each other, and there's friendships that get built, and one time we even had somebody get baptized, which was really cool, so
Yeah.
it's been really special. It's kind of my dream someday to have this be my main thing and have a whole retreat center. I have it all drawn out and what the buildings will look like and all of that, so
I just love how you're painting the picture of peace and contentment because I think that that's what so many of us are yearning for today. There's this overwhelming feeling of stress, anxiousness, overwhelm, which is so much of what I'm always talking about week after week after week in this podcast is that there are ways that we can access this ability to have peace, but we just need to know where to go. So I'm glad that you've provided this information. So it gives us all a place that we can take those next steps.
absolutely happy to
Awesome.
do it.
And I also wanna talk about Cultivate. So Cultivate, I first of all, I love that name. I love, the idea behind, like, bringing something to life, something beautiful to life, and I know that's so much of what your brand emulates. So let's talk about how, Cultivate came to be. Would you, describe how this vision of the business that you are doing so amazing now and so many things, we'll get into that in just a minute, but how did the vision of what you've created now come to light?
It kind of happened organically. During COVID, I was working for a nonprofit for 10 years and it was doing international missions. And so the world shut down. So the organization had to too, which was sad. But I was doing freelance all since college because I went to college for design and marketing. And it just kinda happened organically during that COVID period where I was doing more and more freelance for people. A lot of people were starting new businesses during that time because so many people lost their jobs, and so I was getting a lot of clients reaching out to me, wanting to do marketing and help them with a logo, and so I was like, "Why don't I just create an LLC and do this? This is what I went to college for. This is what my background is. This is what is just kind of organically happening." And so I get to work with a lot of nonprofits. I get to work with a lot of business owners, and I tend to get a lot of brand new businesses reaching out to me, which I love because I love getting to be part of that journey from the beginning.
Absolutely.
So
So, and you've grown it to a point where you have a lot of consistent subscribers, myself included, that do the newsletter with you and you have all different types of projects. Do you feel like you are currently gravitating to one specific area or niche in graphic design, or would you just say it's a comprehensive thing and you just love serving doing all of it?
I think the monthly newsletters is kind of I'm getting more and more of those, and I really love that because then you build this relationship with the clients and you get to work with them every month for those. But from there, it also ends up being whatever they need. I also it's almost like I become like their marketing virtual assistant because I end up helping with things that you don't typically think of when you think of a graphic designer, especially with my background in nonprofit and organizational leadership and things like that. I tend to help them with just setting up their systems or even if they don't have an email marketing system, creating one for them and then importing their contacts and like making it really easy for them So, because they're busy and they don't
Yeah.
have time to worry about all the marketing things, and so I just love to help them and help them get set up and all those things. So, and a lot of little projects. Like sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, can you just design me a little postcard?" Or, "Hey, can you create me a signature for my email?" It's a lot of little things like that, but it's kind of like your one-stop shop
Yes.
for
You can't.
anything marketing that you need, and it doesn't have to be like hugely expensive. That's kind of my passion there is because I work with a lot of nonprofits and I've worked for nonprofits and I know the budgets are smaller. And I also know when you start your brand new business, you don't often have this huge marketing budget. So my heart is to help people get going and figure out where's the most impact going to be for the most economical way.
And that honestly makes such a huge difference, especially for those that are just starting out. And I also love the fact that you have such a great sense of urgency with getting like I mean that turnaround time is just phenomenal. You know, you're always on top of your projects and it really does make a difference because time is always of the essence. And I know for myself sometimes there's those last minute things. You're like, "Shoot, I just have to get this done." And yet you find a way to make that happen. I also love the fact that you work with so many diverse clients and yet you bring such an amazing vision to the table for them. So you help them to create the vision, you help them to develop the brand. And it's I know with each client it's a little bit different and it's always ever changing and evolving and the fact that you can help each one of them bring that to light in such a pure and profound way that takes a special skill set to be able to do that. So, I just wanna commend you for that high level of skill to be able to really look at what somebody wants, like, what they're telling you. I feel like so much of the time, I've heard this from other graphic designers that, it's just kinda thrown on you with minimal information, and you're like, "I gotta take this thing, and I gotta run with it," you know? Like, I gotta just make this happen, I gotta put it together, so I know with your work, you take it seriously, and every time that I've seen the end result, I've been very impressed.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
So I just wanted to highlight that because I think that's really important for the audience to hear that that is a significant part of the way that you do things. You really take that small bit of information and create a masterpiece.
Thank you. Yeah, I try and I try to create something that if I'm the consumer that's seeing it, does it make sense to me? So I kind of approach everything with those eyes of even if they've given me very little information, I think how would it make sense to me to see this presented and then I just run with it and then I show it to them and I find that with certain types of people they work better if they've seen it first, and then they can provide feedback, whereas I have other clients that are very specific, like what they want, so it's kind of just ebbing and flowing with the different personality types and different client types to find out what works for them.
So if somebody were starting with a small budget, for example, they're just getting going with their business, what would you recommend for them as a starting point?
I usually start with a logo because that's kind of their brand identity, it's like their stamp that's on everything, and you can do a logo usually relatively affordable, and then from there, you have your colors, your font, your look, your feel, and then everything else kinda builds around that. So I would say that's a good place to start, and that's usually what I recommend for clients, and then from there, it kinda depends on the client and the type of business.
Sure.
For instance, recently, I was working with a client that their audience and their target is not on social media at all. So we wouldn't focus on that for them. But whereas another client, that's how they're getting all of their interest is through reels and videos and things on social media. So it's really catered towards each client, but also having somebody help you, having somebody who's
Mhm.
helped other businesses do this help you and having it clear conversation up front of what your budget is so that you can work with somebody that's in your price range and that can help you one step at a time and just starting where you are and not trying to do all the things at
Yes.
once. And I think that's where it gets overwhelming for new business owners is that there's a million ideas out there, but if you try to do them all at once, it's going to be overwhelming, first of all, and very expensive. And not every single thing out there is going to work for every type of business. So having someone work with you to ask those kind of questions and dive in to figure out and drill down to figure out what exactly is your target audience and what are your goals for this season. That's kind of where we would start.
Yeah, and I think even just having that initial conversation, like,
Yeah.
just knowing what is out there, what is available, what are the things that we could create or work on. Things are evolving so quickly, and I know you've been keeping up with it, and you've been keeping up with the times as far as, like, technology is concerned and whatnot, but whether it's the CRM itself or the integrations of new things or simply the logo, I think the online world is just it's so diverse. There's so much at our fingertips. So having that conversation with someone such as yourself that specializes in marketing is going to be a key component to growing your business.
Right. And I do a 15-minute free consultation with anybody, so if they wanna just brainstorm with me, we can do that, and even if they don't work with me after that conversation is done, hopefully at least gives them some ideas of what they could do next. And if they have the time and they're a creative type of person it's not gonna overwhelm them, there are a lot of things people can do themselves through, like, Canva or, different AI programs. There are things you can do yourself, but I find that a lot of people that end up coming to me they don't wanna get into that world. They're busy, they're trying to build their business or trying to do whatever it is they do, which most of the time if someone's coming to me, it's not marketing is not what they do.
Yeah,
So, they want someone to help them because
sure.
that's overwhelming to them. But if it's a type of person that's not, there's so many things that you can do, and I'm even willing to share those kinds of ideas with people, and I've even gotten on Zoom calls and trained someone like, I'll create a template for them in Canva, and then I'll train them how to make updates to it themselves. So I'm always wanting to help them regardless of whether they work with me long term or not.
I love that. That's so amazing. Well, Autumn, thank you so much for being on today. We really appreciate all your expertise and you sharing your background with us. I always find so much value in the work that you do and how you pour into people. And you're such a great asset. So thank you for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was
Mm.
a pleasure.
And thank you so much for tuning in today to Dream Ignite Build, where we focus on business growth strategy. We hope that you'll subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and join us for our next episode next week.